On with iPadOS. I believe this might be the last one. There might have been a few things from macOS that I didn't have time to go through, but I've done enough of these brainstreams already. I would like to go to like bigger vision, but let's focus on this one. I've written a lot of things down. So the wording portable, powerful, versatile, very interesting. The iPad as a canvas is very interesting to me because of LayerOS being the canvas and things growing around it. But I've talked enough about LayerOS, and this is all about WWDC, so I'm going to go. Windows, I was a bit skeptical, but at the end of the day, what we ended up getting was a very macOS style. So I think I want to pause for a second and like pull back on this, because what I was very interested in, what came up when I saw this is the thoughts of last year. With iOS 18, I did that whole month of like designing of like what it would be. If I still have that, this ended up being the iOS 18. It was like for iPhone and iPad. It didn't really focus so much on the Mac. But my concept over here was, so everybody for years have been saying like the iPad is hampered by not being macOS. Everyone's touchscreen on the MacBook, and everyone would want macOS on an iPad, and this was the thing that many people in the community have been asking for a while. So my argument last year was, I actually don't think that this is the right approach because we're moving paradigms. Obviously, my paradigm is augmented reality, but the brains of augmented reality, the mind, the vision that's going to help coalesce everything together is artificial intelligence. And if done right, my argument was, if done right, the iPhone is actually going to be a lot more powerful than the iPad or the iMac, in which that lots of things don't need to be as visual as they are here. Lots of things are going to be done in the background. They're going to be done asynchronously with your executive assistant, with your AI, with your personal executive assistant. And the whole way that work gets done is going to be very different. Obviously, you will have that kind of concept of coming to a bigger screen to work on things that require more screen real estate, whether it's the Mac or whether it's glasses, contact lenses down the line with augmented reality. But the idea was that things are definitely going to change. And if Apple does this correctly, we don't need to have this conversation of the iPad needs to become the macOS, because that is with proper automation and building and understanding how this new way of working, this new tool, and again, AI is not necessarily a tool. AI is a new way of thinking. It's a new way of creating. This tool has actual thoughts behind it, artificial thoughts, but it has that intelligence. So it's no longer going to be just like a Photoshop or a tool like that. It's a co-pilot. Things change. The way that you get it done changes. Applications, all that is very different. So the argument was, the right approach is to actually bring proper AI into iOS, into iPadOS, when you can do automation, when you could do these node building, when you could do natural language, when you can actually get stuff done asynchronously and then come back to your computer and actually get that last bit done when you sit down and have that big screen real estate. It's like the camera. It's like the iPhone being the best camera because it's in your pocket. It's always available. That was like the kind of thought process and like the big argument from last year. What's interesting to me is, we've seen in the last year that Apple Intelligence has not gone as far as they promised. This whole personalization and actually built in, and not just building in all these new tools, but actually building in the power of these models into the device, into on device, personal, private, on device. So what's interesting is, it actually looks like they've kind of gone the other way. They've kind of, to me at least, it says like, we could not get AI where we want to or where it should be. Whether that we want to is another conversation. So let's just go reskin the operating system, not just work on this new spatial and this glass theme, this liquid glass, but let's finally give everyone what they need of bringing macOS to the iPad. Now, there's a lot of arguments of what's going to happen. Now it's finally more powerful, Lots of these arguments I don't really care as much, because for me, when I see things like this, it says we're not moving as fast as we should be. That's to me what it is. I'm happy that it's there, and I would love to move to one device, whether it's my laptop getting a touchscreen or whether it's an iPad getting the power of macOS. Yeah, I would like that now, until I get augmented reality, until the operating system is right in the way that I think it should be going. But I was hoping Apple could be one of the ones to help get us there. And unfortunately, it looks like they took the route, if I'm going to say that there's two routes, or if I'm going to assume there's two routes, it looks like they took the route of let's just refine and bring this desktop metaphor, this desktop operating system from the 60s and 70s, and let's just keep refining it so now it's on touchscreen, instead of going, no. AI and AR is about to completely radically change the paradigm of how we interact with computers and how we get work and our jobs done. So little disappointing in that, but okay, fine for the people that want that, great. Audio input, very good. I just want to see my AirPods being as powerful as a regular mic. Like, this is annoying to me. The fact that I need to have this big bulky thing. And like you see these other companies are coming out with, forgetting the name of the company, but it looks like a tiny little disc. Like, we have the potential to put in the correct microphones and fit them into the space of AirPods. The fact that they're not there yet, maybe because the microphone's further away from the mouth, but the fact that we don't have that, the algorithms that put them on par, means I need to carry something like this around. I need to plug it in. I need to configure things. I would love to be able to put my AirPods on and be able to record a podcast or record a Brainstream and have it studio quality. They're going in that direction, so this kind of thing is good to see. I think it all comes together with your devices, if you really want AI to work, it needs to be able to hear me speak or even whisper on a train in a loud environment and just really be able to hone in whether you're feeling the bones, whether you're really getting contact to my skin and using that to filter out some of the frequencies and be able to focus in, but be able to get studio quality in any environment, walking down the street, loud, subway, in wherever it is, and get studio quality sounding. Voice is not only good for podcasts and recordings and things like this for content creators, but it's also very, very important for AI to actually be a huge part of the operating system. Privacy and all those things are another concept. Folders in the dock, again, Mac OS. Live translation, we talked about this with iOS. That's a big thing everywhere. Preview, finally, like bringing in the apps from Mac OS into the iPad to make it more like a Mac is part and parcel of all this. But like I said in the other one, I would really like to see apps getting merging apps that have very similar features, but in a very smart, layered way. But again, that goes to the LayerOS. Updated files app, my issue with that, or my concern with that, is how it's going to work with Google Drive, because one of my big issues is, so I work with primarily Google Drive. That's my, it's one of my storage places, and it just doesn't work well with shared drives. When I go and try use the folder or use the file in a share sheet or things like that moving around, it just doesn't work with shared drives, which is primarily where my documents, a big part of where my documents are shared. So that to me is, I guess if they've figured that out and done that, then yes, it's getting to a place. But file app didn't just have to change with certain tabs and things like that, and information and how it was arranged. But we need things like that like actual external drives like Google Drive are working properly, not just Google Drive, but the shared drive. Genmoji appearances, not interested. New design, not interested. iOS games, not interested. Windows control, okay, again, part of that kind of the whole Mac OS version of it. Read pen, yeah, cool. Bring these things out. Not crazy about that. Expose. Interesting, because I heard this kind of concept, okay, maybe not the expose in macOS, but I heard that there was a library, a launcher, I think it's called Launchpad on macOS, and I think they said that was being phased out for the search bar that could search apps, and it looked like the app drawer on the iPad OS. So interesting to see, but expose is important for windowing. I don't use it as much, but it's interesting. It's actually funny because here the widget for the weather, yes, it looks like it's the iOS version, very small, but it kind of looks like the old widgets that we had before they started changing everything. Background tasks, very important for anyone that's doing any difficult work, but I've been told that it is still limited. It can't go on forever. There is still limits to it. Local audio and video capture, important. I think there's a lot I can say about that, but I'm going to skip over that. I don't have any time. Menu bar, again, macOS. All new windowing system, macOS. The journal, I think I want to pause on for a second. And I think I might go a bit above 10 minutes. I think we'll go on to 15. But we also want to do, this journal with macOS. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just set another 5 minutes. Let's just skip that. I'm going to go to 15 minutes because I just want to wrap this up. I don't want to do another video. But these kind of things are part of the journal specifically is like one of those things that it's like, come on, let's get this over and done with already. Journal could have been really good. I use a journal, and one of the biggest things is like streaks, and this is kind of where it's like it ties into this whole like LayerOS kind of concept of like you have apps that are like 80% similar, but like you stick with one because of that last 20%. But then when you want to get work done, you stick with the last 20% and you find another app that does the last 20%, but the next app most likely does 80% of the next 20%, and then you end up using a bunch of apps. I would love to use Journal because being able to bring in my trends, my health, my sleep, my water intake, to be able to like really bring in those kind of piece of information plus photos, and to bring my mood and my emotions and meditation, like all these trends together would be great. The thing is, the journal that I use, it uses like activities, and like I don't think Journal has that, and like it'd be nice to bring that in. I mean, obviously the big thing that stops me from going to something like Journal is the import export. They said that they would be working on this. Same with passwords. We want to go there. I would like to get rid of LastPass, 1Password, things like that, but those still have those extra small features like locked notes, or there's certain things that those have that Apple doesn't have. And again, it's this part of this app thing. Like Apple is good at Sherlocking something, but then you are missing some crucial components that don't allow you to get to it, but you would like to get to it. Whatever, it becomes this big thing. But Journal specifically, one of the ways that I do it, if I don't have time to do a journal, sometimes I'll open up a ChatGPT, and I'll do a transcription of like 5 minutes, whatever. I'll just talk through my day, and then I will instruct this conversation to reword it in a very easy to read way or a very short way, just so I can paste that back into my journal. And it's almost, and my journal has the option to have a voice note, but in a way I don't want to use a voice note. I want to use voice transcription to be able to give in the right amount of data. It knows how to pull out the right details and speak in the way that I want to speak, but in a journal. So not being able to bring streaks in properly, which actually now I'm told that Journal recently, I think, brought in streaks, but not having activities, not being able to import properly, and not being able to have like an AI that I can train and say, hey, I don't always have the time to sit there and write it down. It might be great, but if I could speak through it and give like my day as I'm like pacing back and forth, or I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about new ideas, having that written down would be great. Because when you tie everything together and you have like real AI suggestions, and when you have pictures and geolocate, you really get a much better and more integrated picture of what your day is. And then obviously the next step is be able to like have your AI prompt you for all those other like template things, or reflections in the journal, or like like writing out missions and things like this. And this is where like this being part of like a whole AI operating system is where you could speak to it and it says, you know what, we haven't done reflections in a while, let's do this. Or I know you're working on this thing, so like let's actually start your journal off at the like what your mission is for the day. Or you did something amazing today or the last couple of days, like let's do that gratitude kind of thing. Like all those templates that I can choose, it'd be great to then be prompted, but then pick out all the other trends and things like that. So it's like these kind of apps, but like they don't have all the features, but other ones don't. And then you'd like to come over here and all the really cool things that AI could bring to them, instead of having them in like a lot of people I know like are using ChatGPT to journal and they speak to, and then they have conversations of like, tell me about what it was like, the last, what was I feeling a month ago? And like, this was something that I was speaking with a friend, and she was always like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if you could like export all your journals? Because I've had it for like 5 or 6 years now. I've got a very, very long streak, and the streak was a big part of why I kept it for so long. She's like, imagine if you could put that in to like a ChatGPT and like ask it questions, like show me my trends. Do I need help with this? Where was I struggling? Visualize this. Show me the graph that. Give me advice here. Have you seen a pattern with something? Like all those kind of trends and things like that. Be able to have conversations and ask and even have those insights brought out for you before you even ask, like those kind of things. Like those are really cool things. But again, I don't want to give that data to like everyone. Having that nice and private, using the private cloud compute on my device, using foundation models on local storage that all belong to me, no one else is touching, is something that is very interesting. Anyways, that's it. I think we went through everything. That's WWDC. And if there's any more, I'll continue with it. But for now, I'll see you guys in the future.